It took us 50 minutes to create that guy. You can actually download that if you're curious about the details. So it took us 5 times longer to automate it than it would have done by hand, but we've had to do it a bunch of times since then. So it actually saved us time, and it accidentally became an important part of our project. Because we thought we'd only have to ever do it once, and then, oh, by the way, that file changes all the time. So we had to do it a bunch of times. Using a real language allowed us to refactor it so that we could write things like unit tests. When it became an important part of our project, we wanted to add real infrastructure for it, including being able to do things like use test unit in Ruby, do things like do mock objects for testing, so we didn't actually have to create files and that sort of stuff. So using a real language allowed us to take this little throwaway and grow it into an asset. Unit testing, refactoring, IDE support. And if you start by treating it as a first-class problem, you tend to build better solutions. But the time saving is kind of moot because solving problems by hand makes you dumber. Because it steals away your concentration and it squanders your focus. Automating it makes you smarter because you figure out clever ways to solve problems. There's one last little piece here. How do you justify automation to someone like a manager? One of the things you can do is time box your efforts, say, okay, let's set a reasonable amount of time, and then evaluate at the end of the time box and decide if you want to go forward. Maybe you want to just create another time box or just abandon the effort. You also want to analyze the return on investment for automating something. How long does it take to do it now times the number of times you have to do it? And what are the consequences of doing it wrong one time? Automation is about time savings and risk mitigation. There's one last thing you have to be careful of. So let's say you found this little tool that lets you see a graphical view of your Subversion repository, and you install it, but it doesn't work with the version of Apache you have, so you have to update your version of Apache. And it doesn't work with the version of Linux you have, so you have to update your version of Linux, which doesn't run on the hardware you have, so you've got to recompile the kernel and find a video driver, and 2 or 3 steps further along this sequence, and you're shaving a yak. It's like, wait a minute, how did this yak get in here? As developers, we're all problem solvers, and it's really easy to get caught up in problems and not remember why we started down this path until you're knee-deep in yak hair. This is official computer science terminology. This is in the jargon file. That process I just talked about is called shaving a yak. And by far the hardest part of this presentation, finding a good stock photo of a shaved yak. So the slides and samples are there at the site, and I'm a little bit over time, so if you have any questions, just grab me in the hall afterwards. I'll be happy to answer them for you. So, thanks.